No more bullshit. We want action.
I have always been a proud and responsible Canadian, and no government or legislation can take that away from me or try to hide me away from the rest of the world.
Who in those early days said enough is enough, and if we don't do it ourselves, nobody else will. We began to organize some of the other PWAs, began to do some of our very first fundraising to generate the money to explore alternate health therapies, to be able to help people pay for vitamins, to send people to workshops on wellness. And these were things that AIDS Vancouver couldn't help us with. We had to do it ourselves. What we discovered along the way was that it gave us a tremendous sense of empowerment. Something that being a client, somebody else's client, could never have done for us. That sense of, gee, I'm a human being and I can still function and I can do things on my own and I'm not useless and I'm not a victim. And that became essential to the creed of the coalition, that you get involved, that you make of it what you will, that you empower yourself, that you have dignity, that you command respect. And we have found that people tend to live longer if they get involved, if they fight for what they feel is right.
When I was first diagnosed, I felt very alone and didn't know what to do. I mean, I was sure I was going to die. And I heard about a group and a man in particular that had survived for a number of years. And I wanted to know more about that, but it was very frightening to, you know, what do? Do you walk into an office and say, hi, I have AIDS, help me? And basically that is what I had to do. And I went to AIDS Vancouver first, and they directed me to the Persons with AIDS Coalition. And it was very difficult. I think I hung out in the hallway for about 10 minutes before I finally opened the door, because what do you think you're going to find back there? You know, people with AIDS. You know, I had very little information, just the general information of being diagnosed and feeling sick, and the stuff that comes at you from the hospital, which is not always as thorough in the sense of how to survive, you know, how to treat it maybe, and what they can and can't do.
It took me, after my diagnosis, it took me 6 months before I was brave enough to come and join. And I never had any, I never had any thoughts of the future. The only things I thought about was I was going to die. I went out and made my funeral arrangements. I sort of isolated myself. I didn't want to have anything to do with my friends. And someone brought me up here. And since then, it's like I have a full-time job. I'm feeling better. I have friends, and I have future goals and goals within the community.
When I was diagnosed, I used to swim 1 kilometer a day. I played softball. I was on championship bowling teams. And I insisted on doing all those things up until last year, when I started getting very ill. And I had to give them up. And that was very hard on me. The sense of surrendering to the disease. It's like, I'll fight this stupid thing every inch of the way, and how dare it take my softball away from me? How dare it take my bowling and my swimming away from me? Because it's made me so weak. But I don't think I've ever sat down and blamed anybody for this disease. I've never said, why me? It's something that happened. Could happen to anybody, it happened to me. And there's no use rebelling or screaming or crying out against God or anything else to complain about it. This is where my life is going. But I'm not going out with a whimper. If I leave, it's going to be with a bang.